The storm shrieked across the rust-colored plains of the Sahara like a living thing, hurling crystalline sand against the research station's reinforced windows. Marcus Webb pressed his forehead against the cool glass, watching jagged bolts of amber lightning fracture the bruised sky. He'd been planetside for 4 months now, cataloging the bizarre ecosystem of this distant world for the Interstellar Survey course. But tonight something gnawed at his instincts. "Marcus, you seeing these readings?" Dina Torres's voice crackled through his earpiece, pulling him from his thoughts. "Seismic activity in Quadrant 9 just spiked. We're talking magnitude 7 equivalent." He crossed to the holographic display, where topographical maps flickered with angry red markers. "Natural fault line shift? Can't say for certain, but there's a massive structural failure happening about 3 kilometers northeast. Ground's opening up like someone pulled a cork." Dina's dark eyes met his across the monitoring station. "Whatever it is, it's big." Marcus felt his pulse quicken. 4 months of routine sample collection and atmospheric readings had left him restless. "Prep the crawler. We're going out, in this?" Dina gestured toward the window, where visibility had dropped to nearly zero. "Protocol explicitly forbids." "I know what protocol says." Marcus was already pulling on his environmental suit, fingers working the seals with practiced efficiency. "But something tells me this won't wait for clear weather." 20 minutes later, the armored crawler lurched across the alien terrain, its 6 wheels finding purchase on ground that shifted and cracked beneath them. The storm battered their vehicle relentlessly, but the reinforced hull held. Marcus drove with intense focus, following the coordinates to the seismic anomaly. "There," Dina pointed through the sand-scoured windshield. "Sweet mercy, would you look at that?" A chasm had split the earth, easily 60 meters across. Through the swirling sand, Marcus caught glimpses of something within walls that gleamed with an inner radiance. Geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Some kind of buried structure," he murmured, bringing the crawler to a halt at a safe distance. "Pre-colonial, has to be. Nothing we've built looks like that." They approached on foot, safety lines tethering them to the crawler. The storm's fury seemed to lessen as they descended into the chasm, as if the structure itself created a pocket of relative calm. The walls were smooth as glass, yet warm to the touch, covered in symbols that seemed to shift and flow when viewed peripherally. "This is incredible," Dina breathed, her scanner painting the air with blue light as she recorded everything. "These architectural techniques. Marcus, this civilization was way more advanced than anything in the survey database." He nodded absently, his attention drawn to movement in the shadows. Something small shifted near a collapsed column, a flash of silver against the dark stone. Marcus moved closer, his helmet light cutting through the gloom. The creature was no bigger than his hand, with fur that shimmered like liquid mercury and eyes the color of deep violets. It huddled against the fallen stone, clearly injured, a trail of luminescent blue-green fluid seeping from its flank. Those extraordinary eyes fixed on Marcus, with an intelligence that sent chills down his spine. "What in the world, ... Dina started, but the ground beneath them shuddered violently. The structure's collapsing. Marcus shouted as ancient supports began to fail. "Move now." But even as he turned toward the exit, he found himself locked in the creature's gaze. Something passed between them in that moment, recognition, perhaps, or destiny. Without conscious thought, Marcus scooped the small being into his hands and tucked it carefully into the specimen pouch on his suit. They sprinted for the crawler as the chasm began to implode behind them. Chunks of that impossible architecture tumbling into the depths. They barely sealed the vehicle before a shockwave rolled across the plains, nearly flipping them end over end. Marcus fought the controls, eventually steering them back toward the station as the storm finally began to break. "Please tell me you didn't just do what I think you did," Dina said quietly. her eyes fixed on the bulge in his specimen pouch. "I couldn't leave it," Marcus replied, feeling the tiny creature's heartbeat against his chest rapid, frightened but alive. "You saw its eyes, Dina. That's not just some animal." Back at the station, the science team clamored for access to their discovery, but Marcus felt fiercely protective. "It needs medical attention first," he insisted, carrying the creature to his private quarters instead of the lab dot in the quiet of his room. Marcus carefully cleaned the wound with antiseptic gel. The creature flinched, but didn't fight him, those violet eyes watching his every move with unsettling awareness. He offered water in a shallow dish, which it lapped cautiously, then small bits of protein rations that it sniffed before accepting. "What are you?" Marcus whispered as he fashioned a nest from soft fabric on his desk. The creature, he was already thinking of it as Azura, though he couldn't say why curled into the makeshift bed with a sound that might have been contentment. That night, as Marcus lay in his bunk staring at the ceiling, he felt Azura climb onto his chest. The small creature settled against his collarbone, her warmth seeping through his shirt. As sleep claimed him, visions flooded his mind, towering spires of crystal and metal, beings with skin like polished jade and hair the color of starlight, and massive creatures with silver fur standing guard over temples that touched the clouds dot in the dreams. He saw ceremonies of binding, felt the weight of ancient traditions, and understood with sudden clarity that Azura was no mere animal. She was something sacred, something vital, and their meeting had been no accident. When Marcus woke near dawn, Azura sat on his chest, staring at him with those impossible violet eyes. Her wound had already begun to heal, the luminescent fluid no longer seeping. As if sensing his thoughts, she made a soft, trilling sound and pressed her small head against his chin. "We're in this together now, aren't we?" Marcus said softly, stroking her silver fur. It felt like silk beneath his fingers, warm and somehow electric. Azura's response was to close her eyes and purr, an alien sound that nonetheless conveyed perfect trust. Marcus knew in that moment that his life had changed irrevocably. Whatever Azura was, whatever forces had led him to find her, there was no going back. The morning light of the Sara's red sun filtered through his window, painting everything in shades of copper and gold. Marcus sat up carefully, cradling Azura in his palms. She had already grown noticeably larger overnight, her body filling his hands more substantially. "You're going to be something magnificent, aren't you?" he murmured. Azura's violet eyes seemed to sparkle with agreement, and deep in Marcus's mind, he felt the first whispers of their bond taking root, a connection that would change not just his destiny, but the fate of worlds he had yet to imagine. 6 months had transformed everything. Marcus stood in his quarters, recording measurements in his personal log, while Azura watched from her perch near the window. The creature who had once fit in his palm now stood as high as his knee, her silver fur rippling over powerful developing muscles. Her violet eyes had only grown more intelligent, more knowing. "Another 3 kilos since last week," Marcus noted, running the scanner over her frame. "Your growth rate defies every biological model we have." Azura tilted her head, and Marcus felt a pulse of warmth through their connection. Not words exactly, but understanding. Over the months, their bond had deepened into something he couldn't fully explain to others. He would catch glimpses of her thoughts, emotions rendered as colors and sensations. And somehow he knew she experienced his feelings just as vividly. The research station's commander, Captain Johann Voss, had been surprisingly tolerant of Marcus keeping Azura, partly because she showed no aggression toward humans, partly because the data she provided was scientifically invaluable. But Marcus sensed that patience wearing thin. "Webb?" "My office, immediately." Voss's voice through the intercom carried an edge that made Marcus's stomach tighten. He found the captain reviewing energy readings on his terminal, his weathered features set in hard lines. Explain these, Voss said without preamble. Turning the screen toward Marcus. The display showed complex energy patterns, emanating from Marcus's quarters pulsing waves that resembled nothing in their extensive database. The patterns were beautiful in their complexity, like watching music made visible. I can't explain them, sir, Marcus admitted. But Azura isn't dangerous. You've grown attached? Voss interrupted. That compromises your objectivity. With respect, Captain, there's more happening here than we understand. She's intelligent, possibly sentient. Our bond is your bond? Voss's eyebrow rose. You're aware how that sounds? Earth Command wants the creature transferred to the xenobiology facility on Titan Station. Transport arrives in 4 days. Marcus felt his chest constrict. Sir, I don't think separating us is wise. There's a connection between us that the proximity alarms shrieked to life, cutting through his words. Red lights pulsed throughout the station as the AI announced, unidentified vessel detected. Non-terrestrial design. Entering orbital approach. They rushed to the command center, where screens displayed a ship unlike anything in human records. It moved through space with fluid grace, its hull seeming to shift between colors, bronze and silver, and something that defied description. The vessel was both beautiful and intimidating, clearly built by hands that understood aesthetics as much as function. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, reported Communications Officer Nico Reeves. Audio and visual. On screen, Voss ordered. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a figure that stole Marcus's breath. She was humanoid, but distinctly alien skin like polished jade, hair flowing in waves of pure white that seemed to glow with inner light. Delicate pointed ears framed a face of striking beauty, and she wore armor of flowing bronze that accentuated her feminine form without sacrificing its martial elegance. I am Princess Selene of the Aetherian Accord, she announced, her voice like wind chimes, yet carrying unmistakable authority. You possess something that belongs to my people. Marcus felt Azura's presence suddenly surge in his mind recognition. Longing and something like fear all tangled together. This is a peaceful scientific outpost, Voss responded carefully. What exactly do you believe we have? A guardian cub, Selene replied, her luminous amber eyes seeming to look directly at Marcus through the screen. Taken from a sacred temple during her awakening ceremony. Our sensors have tracked her energy signature to this station. She wasn't taken. Marcus found himself stepping forward. I found her injured during a structural collapse. I've been caring for her. The princess's expression shifted surprise, followed by something deeper, more complex. You? A human has been raising a guardian? Her gaze intensified. What is your name? Marcus Webb, field researcher. Marcus Webb. She spoke his name carefully, as if tasting each syllable. And you have named her? Azura. Her name is Azura. Something like shock rippled across Selene's features. Impossible. Guardians bond only with Aetherian royalty. They are our sacred protectors, linked to us through bloodlines that span millennia. No outsider has ever... The doors to the command center hissed open, and Azura bounded in. She moved with predatory grace, despite her size, now comparable to a large earth wolf. She positioned herself at Marcus's side and turned her violet gaze to the screen. A low, resonant sound emerged from her throat, not threatening, but assertive, claiming. Princess Selene's composure shattered. Her hand rose to her mouth, and when she spoke, her voice barely rose above a whisper. By the ancestors, she has truly bonded with you. The mark is clear. What mark? Marcus asked, instinctively placing his hand on Azura's head. The guardian's choice is written in energy, Selene said. Her amber eyes now locked on the connection between Marcus and Azura. I can see it even from here, the resonance between your spirits. This should not be possible. Captain Voss stepped forward, his military bearing reasserting itself. Princess Celine, Marcus Webb is under my authority. While we respect your claim, we need to understand your authority means nothing in this matter. Selene interrupted, though her tone held less coldness than before. She seemed genuinely shaken. This is about the survival of both our peoples. When a guardian reaches maturity without proper bonding protocols, their power becomes catastrophically unstable. Marcus felt Azura press against his leg, and suddenly his mind flooded with Image's temples crumbling, energy tearing through reality itself. Destruction born from power without anchor. "I'll come with you," Marcus heard himself say. "But I need guarantees of safe passage and eventual return." "Marcus, you can't be serious," Voss protested. "Captain, if what she's saying is true, Azura could endanger everyone here, and I need to understand what's happening between us." He looked at the screen, at Selene's striking face. "I need to know what this bond means." Selene's expression softened almost imperceptibly. "The situation is complicated, Marcus Webb. The bond you have formed should be impossible according to everything my people know. Our scholars will need to examine you both, understand how this happened. And after?" Marcus pressed. "That depends on what we discover." Her amber eyes held his. "I will not lie to you. There are those among my people who will see you as a threat, an abomination even. But I swear on my bloodline that you will be treated fairly." As if punctuating the moment, Azura suddenly grew before their eyes. Her shoulders broadened, her limbs extended, claws that had been retracted suddenly visible. The transformation lasted only seconds, but added visible mass to her frame. "Merciful ancestors," Selene breathed. "Her maturation is accelerating. That should take years, not months." "The bond," Nico murmured from his station. "The energy readings are spiking every time they touch." "You have one planetary rotation to prepare," Selene declared, her royal composure reasserting itself, though Marcus caught something else in her eyes now, curiosity, perhaps even concern. "We will transmit transport coordinates. Pack only essentials." The transmission ended abruptly. In the silence that followed, Marcus looked down at Azura, whose violet eyes seemed to hold both apology and promise. "You're really doing this?" Voss asked quietly. "I don't think I have a choice, sir." Marcus met his captain's gaze. "Azura and I are connected in ways I don't fully understand, but I know that wherever this leads, we face it together." Dina Torres appeared in the doorway, having rushed from the lab. "Marcus, I've been analyzing the energy patterns. That bond you share, it's rewriting your neural pathways, creating new connections. You're changing too, just more subtly than Azura." "Changing how?" "Your brain is developing structures similar to the telepathic centers we've theorized about in advanced species. You're adapting to each other." She paused. "Marcus, this is extraordinary, and potentially dangerous." That night, as Marcus packed his few belongings, Azura lay beside him, her head resting on her paws. She had grown another inch since the morning, her frame now undeniably powerful. Through their bond, he felt her concern for him, her determination to protect him. "We're quite a pair, aren't we?" he said softly, stroking her silver fur. "Two beings who never should have met, bound by something neither of us understands." Azura raised her head and pressed her forehead to his chest. The gesture felt ritualistic, significant. Marcus wrapped his arms around her neck, feeling the strength in her muscles, the steady rhythm of her alien heart. "Whatever happens on Aethery," he whispered, "whatever we face, we're in this together. Always." Through their bond, he felt her agreement, fierce and absolute. As sleep claimed him that night, Marcus dreamed again of crystal spires and jade-skinned beings. But now Princess Selene walked through those visions. her amber eyes holding secrets he desperately needed to understand. Tomorrow would bring the unknown, but tonight, Marcus held tight to the bond that had changed everything, the impossible connection between a human researcher and a sacred guardian that should never have been possible, yet felt more real than anything he'd ever known.